Welcome to this little video called the Friend Paradox. Now, if you are fortunate enough to be doing the 1000 Day Sober Experience, and if you're not and you're watching this, what you're playing at, come on, sign up and get on board. But if you are there, you will encounter, or you would have encountered, an exercise called armor, where we talk basically about this situation that presents itself whereby you become someone who doesn't drink alcohol, and it gives you the gift of hindsight, and you look back and you think, wow, I don't know who I am, and I don't know who I ever was. I never showed my real self to the world, right? And 10 years after I first became someone who doesn't drink alcohol, I'm still trying to figure out who I am. This isn't a quick process, right? But it tells us that back in the day when we were growing up through our teenage years and on through life, that we wore armor. We didn't really allow people in to see who we really were. And whilst watching a conversation between strivers Tony and Paul and Strive Ambassador Craig on that assignment, they started to get into this conversation of friendships and why we would wear armor trying to develop friendships in school. And that got me thinking about this friend paradox, right? Because there are many reasons why someone will really struggle to shake the shackles of alcoholism. And when I say alcoholism, I mean the invisible, violent, and dominant belief system that it is, okay? But there is a common thread, and that's relationships. So alcoholism, as an invisible, violent, and dominant belief system, is a non-relational belief system. It's non-relational, okay? 1000 Days Sober Experience is relational. So we need to teach people a higher degree of relational literacy so they can start to be themselves and to be a striver, someone who doesn't drink alcohol, right? Biologically speaking, we thrive in a tribe, right? And alcoholism, the belief system, provides a tribe for everyone as long as you are willing to make alcohol sacrosanct, okay? And that means if you stop drinking alcohol, you start to think about stopping drinking alcohol, you are obviously going to start worrying about how that's going to affect your relationships and your friendships. And this involves issues such as status and connection. And we cover both of these subjects in the 1000 Days Sober Experiences, okay? Now, the first thing to say, hindsight or no hindsight, these fears are very real. They're visceral. If you feel like you're going to lose your friends, then that is a real roadblock when it comes to being someone who doesn't drink alcohol. Think about the bloke who has been playing for the same football team for a decade. And that ritual of meeting up after the game and getting drunk. And now you're not going to be able to do that in the same way. Or the woman who meets up with the girls and goes out on a Saturday night, you know, and just raises hell. Not going to be able to do that anymore. And these are some real fears that people experience is, well, what is going to happen? Am I going to lose status within my friendship group? Am I suddenly not going to be liked as much? Or is it going to be even worse and they're going to get rid of me altogether and I won't have any friends? So we've all felt these fears, and in the Strive community, some people still do, okay? And I'm sure some of you do watching this. But hope exists, because almost everybody that I've helped to become someone who doesn't drink alcohol, they do see and recognize a status change, or they recognize that their relationships change or disintegrate completely, only it doesn't lead to a life of loneliness and despair. Quite the contrary, it leads to a complete reevaluation of relationships, both internal, your relationship with yourself, and external, relationship with other people. So why is there such a disparity between perception, I'm going to lose all my friends, and reality, oh, I'm going to lose all my friends and I'm going to feel terribly sad and lonely, and reality, I lost all my friends and I don't give a fuck, right? So I asked the Strive community, and this is what they had to say, and I'll have my piece along the way as well, right? So Michael says, I say you do this for yourself, okay? This is your life we're talking about. It's not your friend's life. It's not your social circle's life. And that's really important, isn't it, when you think about it? Do we really want to give up our values and the way that we want to live for our friends? Are we willing to sacrifice our integrity and what is important to us to remain in a tribe? You know, that's what Michael says. You shouldn't do that. If you're doing that, you know, have a think about that, right? Is that right? Is that something we want to do? Michael says, if they don't like it, let them move on. Let them move on. I think this is the critical thing here, right? There's two things. There's perception and reality again. If you have a perception that your friends will like you, will ridicule you, or won't want you in their friendship groups anymore if you stop drinking, then you owe them the respect of asking them if that's true, or at least trying it out. Perceiving that's not being respectful, because you're assuming something, you're mind reading, and that is a cognitive distortion, okay? Now, if you have practiced it and you have tried to drink and people have ridiculed me and they won't stop and they do ostracize you, they don't call for you to come out anymore, or everything is strained as a result, are these really the friends that you want to have? Are they friends? What is your definition of a friend? Have you ever defined what a friend is? What are the qualities that you want in a friendship? Surely one of the qualities is when you make a life-changing decision that they back you which way that goes, right? Surely your ideal vision of a friend is when you become someone who doesn't drink alcohol, they become your ally, not your enemy. Okay? Think about that. Michael also says, status? What type of status do you really have when you're drinking? Really? Okay? You want real status, he says. Look yourself in the mirror and recognize the person smiling back at you and respect that person. That's status. Okay? And that is one of the things that we have to work on in the status assignment in 1000 Days Sober Experience, because we keep these friendships and we're so worried about breaking them because we think like that if we stop drinking alcohol, we lower our status. That's the wrong way to think about it. When you stop drinking, you increase your status because you're with it more. You look better. You feel better, right? It's the perception of reality again. They play tricks on you. This is how alcoholism exists as an invisible, violent, and dominant belief system. What he says is, it does happen when you finally choose it, but you have to choose it. Really important. Stella says, deep, meaningful friendships form from not drinking, and that these relationships and forging them takes time and patience. Really important. We're not kids in a school ground anymore where we can go out at dinner time and just throw a ball around with the people who are there in the corner, where growing and cultivating friendships is just part of the deal. We're 40, 50, 60, 70 years of age. It's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more uncomfortable. But just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean we can't do it. We are all living proof that we can find like-minded people if we try hard enough on Strive, because we're together talking on a daily basis. We might not live next to each other, but we're friends. We probably know each other and fit our definition of friendships greater than any friends we have in the physical realm. Okay? Really important. Stella says pub buddies are not real. They're like caricatures. They come with banter, no real deep chatter. The conversation goes round and round on a loop. The brain just stops at some point. It can't continue in a conversation. It gets lost. You start to slur the more and more you drink. And before you know it, you're just talking to a pint glass. And Stella says, I want to talk with humans that aren't see-through, that are unglazed, that are thinking, and that I can interact with them. not people who can't think clearly and can't talk because the drink has taken them. She also says it's not funny. We think it's funny talking to someone who's out of drink, but it's not funny when you're not drinking. The real fun and humour comes from connection and authenticity. A proper belly laugh comes when you're not drinking. Time and space away from drinking gives you different armour. New armour that's not so heavy to wear. It's lighter on its feet and it's agile. You can take it off and put it on when you feel you need it. Okay? And it's common sense that sometimes to get through life you have to wear some armour. But for the most part, let people see who you are. Okay? The key for Stella is I am me. And people who let you be you are your truest friends. So that goes back to me saying, hey, you know, I'm going to stop drinking. Your friend says, well, you're a fucking idiot. You say, boom, you're not my friend no more. I know it sounds really childish, but that's just the way it is, right? Kim says, my experience was that most people didn't give a fuck that I stopped drinking. They were too concerned about themselves, Kim says. Sometimes I would tell someone that I didn't drink anymore, and then the next time I saw them, they'd forgotten, and I'd have to tell them again. This happens to me, even though I run a company and a tribe of people that don't drink alcohol. I help people quit alcohol for a living. And every time I go back and see one of my friends, Skit his name is, he always asks me for a pint. And I'll always say to him, Skit, you do know I run a company where I help people quit alcohol. And he'll go, oh, you're still doing that then, are you? Or my friend will say, are you still doing that non-drinking lark? Now, I say friend, they're no longer friends, right? Because I don't hang around with them. They're associates or former friends or whatever you want to call them. But my relationship is very different now that I don't drink alcohol. But there is this selfishness that goes on when you drink. It is all about you. It's not about other people. There's no service in drinking. It's just all about you, right? She said there was the odd person who made a big deal of it, but honestly, I think it came from more of a place of gossip and using my drinking issues as a way to prop themselves up and make them feel better about their own lives. People in the stuck phase of the strive model for change can take from this that even though it seems like it'll be a big deal in their social circles to be the person that isn't drinking, people don't care. And if they do care, then they obviously have their own issues with alcohol. And it makes them feel uncomfortable that someone who used to be in their tribe is doing something about it. That is true. I actually had a friend, his name is Akers, and he said to me, I said to him, why don't you call me anymore to go out? And he said, Lee, he said, I'll be honest, I love you to bits, but I feel really uncomfortable being around you now that I know you don't drink. Okay? I can't remember how the conversation went afterwards, I'll be honest with you, I can't remember. But it wasn't that I was making him feel uncomfortable. I don't make him feel uncomfortable. I'm just there, right? His thought process around it is making him feel uncomfortable because suddenly I am awakening the cognitive dissonance within him. He's looking at me not drinking and he's thinking to himself, I respect Lee. I value his opinion and the way he goes about things. That's why he's my friend. And he's choosing not to drink. Not just choosing not to drink, but he's choosing to stand on the highest pedestal he can and grab a megaphone and tell the world that alcoholism is an invisible, violent, dominant belief system. And I know he's not crackerjack. What does that say about my drinking? I know that that's what he was thinking, and I know that why he felt uncomfortable being around me. Okay? We're no longer friends in that sense. I don't see him anymore, right? Anna W says, speaking for myself, the common ground that her and her friend stood on, that common ground was drinking. So she said it's sad, but it wasn't about developing good, meaningful relationships. It was always about, will there be alcohol there? Will it be a bar? Is it going to be somewhere to drink? I always remember when we were arranging Jude's birthday parties when he was younger, me and my ex-wife would always make sure that there was a bar there. We needed a bar. There needed to be alcohol. Like, how selfish is that? It's a kid's first, second, third, fourth birthday party. But the main role here, the main issue is to make sure that everybody can get slaughtered, right? So she says when she let go of the alcohol, her friends lost her presence because she wasn't drinking alcohol. And she lost a place to drink with other bodies around her. She did experience all the anxiety that comes with the awkward and uncomfortable moments of letting people know that she no longer drinks. But she never really thought of it as losing status. It was more of facing up to the truth and allowing other people I drank with to know that truth. Becoming sober, she says, is hard. All the way around. Like, everything about it is hard. But she still says it's worth it. She said she recently read that it's part of the journey of the warrior. You're no longer hiding or pretending or masking, but sitting, or more like getting comfortable with your hot loneliness. Your hot loneliness? I don't know if that's a spelling error or if that's right, Hannah, but I get what she's saying, you know? It's about, we can be in the midst of people, like so many people, and not be connected and feel incredibly lonely. But we do fall into this trap that people and mass equals connection and community. But it doesn't. It can't do. Because we wouldn't have people pre-Christianity, around like the 4th century when Jesus was born, going into the desert for 40 years talking to God. Like, they were never lonely. They were all right. They were there with God. You know, they did. There's people who get on fine talking to dead people, talking to deities, like talking to themselves. You know, it's like mass doesn't equal connection. Okay. Laurie says, I have to wonder if it is because socializing without alcohol is an unknown at first. So it's very uncomfortable to acknowledge that some of our relationships aren't going to continue once we stop drinking. Yeah, bang on, Laurie. Bang on. We don't know. So we're always afraid of the unknown. But we've got to try it and see what happens and see what comes from it, right? We also need to be aware that resistance is doing everything in its power to get us to drink alcohol, right? So if all of a sudden we start to feel a little bit awkward that we're not going to have any friends anymore, or our relationships are going to change, or just a straight up fear of having to tell your friends that you're not going to drink, it will lean on it. It will make that voice so loud that you will use it as a justification to drink. You will fall back on your 5 ends of justification, that it's natural, that it's normal, that it's necessary, that it's noble, and that it is another end, and I can't remember off the top of my head. Laurie says it can be scary to think about how we behave and fit in without alcohol. It requires different presence, and that's raw. I still experience a real feeling of being uncomfortable around a group of people that are drinking and becoming drunk. I share that feeling, Laurie. I hate being around people that are drunk. And I don't even like being around someone who just cracks open a can. Because I just have such strong feelings around it. The pointlessness of it comes out for me. And I just can't help feeling like, why does that person have to do that? And there is an uncomfortableness, but I'm used to it, and I don't put myself in positions where I'm uncomfortable that often. It will only generally happen if we're at a family do and someone drinks. My family, the Davies, we drink a lot of alcohol, so I won't be around them when they're drinking alcohol that much. The Lims and the Changs, they don't drink that much alcohol, so it's not a big deal, right? But yeah, I definitely feel uncomfortable. But just because you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean you shouldn't stop drinking alcohol, right? Laurie said, there isn't anything real about that place. I've experienced relationship fading into non-existence because I no longer drink, and we don't have that in common anymore. For the friendships that were built outside of drinking that included other things in common, those never changed. Not drinking wasn't a big deal and was never even brought up in more than as a passing question if they're offering me something to drink. When it comes to casual drinking relationships, it isn't as difficult to let them go because with time we can see that they really don't have any substance. They aren't the people you're going to call when you're in a bind that will be there for you to shoulder or support. But we can't see that until we're looking at it from the other end of the lens, she says, with other more significant relationships that require work and getting support. So my suggestion, says Laurie, would be to do that as you become someone who doesn't drink alcohol, so that you're getting the support you need to keep your focus on your well-being. And that's why Stripe plays a particularly important role, because whilst you're learning to adapt and to forge new relationships, hang on to old relationships in your life, in real physical life, you can build these relationships and these bonds online. And very often when you're going on this 1000 day sober journey, it is those people in Strive that you're turning to in your moment of need, not your physical friendships. Because although you can become an ally, and that's what we should do here, we should be looking at our friendship group. There's a couple of things that I want to say actually. The first thing is, I'm going on a tangent, but it will all make sense. The first thing is, we had to recognize and understand that we never really went about choosing our friends with any real logical rationale. We developed most of our friendships from very young, when we were kids. And if you think about it, our values and our beliefs and our worldview as children is very, very different than it is today. So even now, if you're drinking and you're going out drinking with your buddies, the likelihood is that a lot of them don't really fit your ideal of what a friendship is. It's the same as an intimate relationship, right? So say you're married, you got married when you were really young. Say you got married when you were like 18 and now you're like 52. Like the likelihood that you have much in common with the 18-year-old girl that you fell in love with is really markedly reduced, right? So we need to be aware of that. And we have to have strong boundaries around what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior when it comes to our friends and the way that they treat us and the way that they see us and they hear us and respond to us and respect us, you know. But very often we don't create those boundaries. We don't say to ourselves, what do I want my friends to be like? What values do I want in friends? What energy do I want? How do I want them to communicate with me? So for me, for example, it's really important that if I develop a sexually transmitted disease, that I can call my friend and say, you never guess what? I got VD. And my friend goes, you got what? Got VD. I feel unbelievably like bad. I don't know what has happened, blah, 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 blah. And my friend be like, oh, Lee's telling me he's got VD. No, what are you talking about? Don't talk about something so disgusting. What are you sharing me with that for? Blah, 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 blah. Like, I need to be myself. I need to be open. I need to be radically honest. I need to speak to people about things other than the weather. And if those people aren't able to respond to me in that way, then I'm never going to develop real deep, meaningful relationships with them. So they're not really going to be friends. Not going to be in my inner circle of friends, right? So one of the things we do at 1000 Days Sober in the evolution phase is we take a look at what we call the cast. We're the hero on our own hero's journey. What does our cast look like? Are they the right cast members? Like when you think about Frodo Baggins taking the One Ring to Mordor, he needed a very particular group of people with a particular set of skills and personalities that were going to get him to Mordor without him having his head chopped off. Why isn't it like that in life? Why aren't we saying to ourselves in life, who do I need around me that are going to get me through life? What is my treasure? What is my hero journey? Where does it end? How am I going to get there? What obstacles am I going to encounter? What villains am I going to have to slay? So in my case, the villain was alcoholism. So does it make sense for me to have a cast of drunks when I'm trying to slay alcoholism? It's like they're all Judas. It's like they're all going to stab me in the back. Because while else I'll be saying to them, this alcoholism is an invisible, violent, dominant belief system, and I really need some support and help to understand this more and get over it so I don't desire alcohol. And they're like, yeah, we get you. Drinking a pint of lager. So the cast isn't right for me. And I need positive, upbeat energy, but at the same time, I need people to be real. I need to feel that sense of melancholy. I need to feel that kind of like that sadness and that acknowledgement that, you know, we're all a bit dopey and we don't really know what's going on in the world, right? Like, I need that. But also I need intellectualism, emotional and IQ. I need laughter, I need passion, I need curiosity and respect, right? So I need those things in my relationships. Did I have them in my previous relationships? Smatterings of bits and bobs. But when I stopped drinking alcohol, something changed. I was attracted to people through energy transference. Like something changed. I would be in a coffee shop and I would feel this person's energy, and I would, now the barrier then is going to ask them if you want to connect and be a friend, right? Like a guy going up to a guy is what I found. A guy going up to a guy and saying, hey, how's it going? And then after a while going, can I have your number so we can keep in touch? Was really super uncomfortable at the time, given my upbringing and my very stereotypical, patriarchal kind of almost like homophobic, racist, xenophobic kind of upbringing and culture, right? Whereas now I've got no problem going up to somebody and going, you know what? I think me and you will get on great. Can I have your number so I can give you a ring so we can hang out? No problem doing that now, but I really did in the past, right? So we do need to start thinking to ourselves, hey, I need to look at my friendships. And one of the things that happens when you start drinking alcohol is you start thinking more. You start developing this introspection. You start processing, okay? You start saying to yourself, why have I got a problem with this guy in my friendship group? And instead of just ignoring it, you process it. What does that mean to me? Why is this guy bothering me, etc., etc.? Now, a lot of the times when you sit down and talk to people, I'll give you an example. My cousin Craig, who is like he was one of my best men. I had two best men at my first wedding. He was the best man. I love him. I love him, right? He's like a really important friend of mine. But when I stopped drinking alcohol, I didn't get his support in the way that I needed it. Okay, and he would try to take the piss and make light of it. And I had to be really vulnerable, lean into my vulnerability and say to him, Craig, when you take the piss out of my drinking, I feel angry, annoyed, and like you don't understand who I am. And I don't want that in a relationship. And he says to me, stop being so sensitive. Here you are being sensitive yet. No, Craig. I am sensitive. This is who I am. And if you don't like that about me and you don't change, then we don't have a friendship anymore, right? Okay? I have to be vulnerable to lean into that, to give that feedback. Our friends deserve that if they're our friends. But I know how uncomfortable that is for some of you. And that's why you practice on Strive. Okay? That's why you practice on Strive. You have to go to your friends and you have to say to them, this is what I'm doing. And this is how I need to be supported. All right? You have to explain to them what support looks like. And when they don't support you, you need to give them feedback. You need to give them the benefit of the doubt. And then if they're still not helping you, they're still not supporting you. So there are two things here. One, you have a 100% responsibility here. Let's not pass this on to your friends. Okay? Every friend who's taking a piss out of you takes a piss out of you because you allow them to do that because they're your friend. You're making that choice to keep me and you in a circle. So take 100% responsibility of this, right? So you need to be saying to yourself, here are my boundaries. I need to tell these people what I'm doing. Now, if you don't know what you're doing and you're uncomfortable around that, then you're never going to be someone who doesn't drink alcohol anyway. Because it needs that cast iron surety that you're never going to drink again, right? Without that, you're always going to be wobbling. Your wheel's always going to be a little wobbly. And it's okay to go through life with a little wobbly wheel. Loads of people do it. But that's not what we're about at 1000 Days Sober. We want to go with our wheels fixed, right? So you have that 100% responsibility to tell your friends how you need to be supported and what you're doing. If you don't do that, then that's all on you. And I know that's not easy to do, but Strive and 1000 Days Sober Experience provides you with the tools and the experience and the training ground to do that. And the training ground is really important because this is all about practice, folks, right? Now, when they do fall out of line, you have to do something about it. If you as a company, would you keep a bad client? Some of you might, some of you won't. The ones of you that won't keep a bad client will find it a lot easier to drop your friends. And the way that you drop them is quite easy. Depends on what type of person you are. The way that I drop my friends is I just stop calling them. I stopped calling them over time. They stopped calling me, and I just started calling new friends. Right? That's how it works. So when you stop drinking alcohol, you do become a different person, and you do switch your values around. And that's the problem with your other friends. It's not that they're drinking alcohol. It's their values are different to your values. They're more self-centered, and you're more about other people and growth, right? And they're not. Growth is not burying yourself in alcohol, okay? So when you stop drinking alcohol, you're going to think, you're going to have a deeper level of introspection, you're going to have white space, you're going to want to fill it with meaning and purpose, and your values are going to change and your friends aren't. Okay, so you need to give them that respect and tell them. Really, really important. And then if they, they don't do and they don't speak to you, you've got to drop them. You've got to drop them and move on. You've got to find people out there who are your friends, okay? The other thing that we didn't touch here that came up in the Strive forum, and I haven't brought it up here because I didn't ask their opinion and it's too personal, is a lot of people talked about their partner, the person they're married to, as their friend. I think we'll do a different video on that. Okay, because it gets really personal then, and I want to make sure that strivers are okay with me sharing that kind of stuff, because the one relationship that will change and is more difficult to break than any other than the one with your kids, is your wife or your husband, right? So that is something that we will talk about in a different video. All right. Lastly, and then I'll let you go. How many friends do you need? I don't know about you. I only have the bandwidth to handle a few close friends, just a few, one or two. Friendships take up a lot of energy, and they're very valuable, but they take up a lot of energy, take up a lot of time. Back in the day when you had like 5-10 different acquaintances, and I wasn't filling my white space with meaning and purpose, and I was just faffing around in life, I could keep touch with all those people. Now, with the intensity and the drive that I have and the determination to grow and to evolve, I don't have that much time. So I really need to carve out my friendships in a sound way. And it's all about quality, not quantity. So the better friendships you forge and the deeper connections you forge, the more time you'll spend with them. You don't need a lot of people. So if you're in a group of like 20 people and you've been drinking together forever and going to Tenerife and Benidorm and all these places and getting wrecked for the last 20 years, you don't need 20 friends. You really don't. Like, if like 10% of those stick with you and there's only 2, you're on a winner. You're on a winner. Okay? All right. It's on you. Okay? I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked the strivers, and you can answer it down below. Where is that question? Why doesn't the perception fit reality? So why are we also worried that we're going to lose our friends, and when we lose them, we don't care? Okay? Why doesn't the perception fit the reality? And number 2, if this happens to so many of us, what's the lesson that people who are stuck can take forward and how to implement it? Answer those questions down below and get into the conversation. Thanks for listening.